The OCD. Is it really what you think it is? Hey, it's Joel here at Artisti Coffee Roasters, and today we're going to be talking about the OCD, specifically the OCD 2. I'm going to give a few of my thoughts and a little bit of a review on it. So, the OCD has been around for a few years now. This is the second iteration of the OCD 2. As a basic concept, the idea is that it redistributes coffee evenly around your basket. The way that it's doing that is with this 4-fin design. It has adjustable depth, and all you're doing is putting it on top of your coffee basket and spinning it 3 times. Now, what I will say is we've had one of these in our espresso bar behind me, and we've used it day in, day out for the past 6 months. And to be honest with you, it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. Now, we know puck sort of defects are caused by poor distribution. In a fast workflow environment, everyone's looking for that solution that's going to get consistent extractions every single time. When we originally got this into our espresso bar, it was my understanding that this was going to fix all these problems and be an absolute time saver, silver bullet, don't ever have to worry about a poor extraction again because we've got the OCD backing us up. As it turns out, surprisingly, or not so much, that doesn't seem to be the case at all. The OCD, although it's, I believe, a great product and can really increase the quality of the coffee that you're serving in your espresso bar, cafe, or even at home, it's not really a time-saving option. After doing my due diligence and research and a few tests myself, there's still a fair bit of work that you need to do to prepare your coffee bed before using the OCD. This is purely just a polishing tool and a finishing tool. So rather than just grinding into a large pile in your basket, sticking the OCD on top and spinning it and not worrying about it, there still is a lot of manual prep as we used to do before we had the OCD. Still distributing the coffee relatively evenly around your basket is a big must before using the OCD. The other thing that I really sort of found after, I suppose, a bit of testing in our bar myself was that the depth is super critical and important. When we first got this, we just, for whatever reason, had the tendency to wind it down quite deep. We felt that this was moving more of the coffee around the basket, where in actual fact, all it was doing was compressing the coffee bed or, tamping it. And then we'd put it into the puck press or manually tamp it in another way, and you're double tamping your coffee and not really distributing it at all. So that was an interesting find. It's also the dose that you're putting into your basket. The inventor of this Sasha Sistik actually only recommends that you're using 21 grams of coffee in your 21 gram basket. Now, our standard recipe size is actually 22.5 grams, so it's more weight and more volume of coffee than what he recommends. So we're on a very, very shallow setting and still getting that sort of pre-tamp a little bit. But circling back, I suppose the real question that most of you guys need to ask, that you may not be asking, is this going to fix all my problems? I can tell you now it's not. This is a very, very specific finishing tool to increase the quality of coffee that you're doing and making you spend more time in production of that coffee in that workflow rather than less. So that's the big takeaway that I want you to get from this video, is that this is not necessarily, in my opinion, a time-saving skill or a silver bullet that's going to fix your puck defects. It's something to add and spend more time in making that coffee process. So, as I said, I still think it's a great product, but not for what I originally thought it was going to be. So I just wanted to show you behind the coffee machine, I suppose, how not to use the OCD, and then hopefully how we use the OCD and how I found that we can get really good results using this tool here. So first of all, This is how I would recommend to not use the OCD. So you can see here we've ground straight into the handle and we've got a large big lump of coffee in the center of our basket. If I go straight over and put the OCD on top of that, in the center here, all I'm going to do is put pressure as I lower the OCD in on the center of that huge mound there and compress the huge mound. So again, let's see how this goes. And by spinning it as well, I haven't actually distributed the coffee that was piled in the center to the outside. All I've done is move the coffee that was around the outside of the basket around. That does help, but you can see, hopefully you can see that. You can see these large gaps here that we've got in the side, and then if we feel our puck, it's quite soft on the outside and quite hard in the center. Once we introduce water to this bed of coffee, we're going to get a heap of channeling around the outside and under extract the coffee on the inside of the basket. I actually did that at its lowest setting. If you increase the height of or the depth that the OCD is going into the basket, that's only going to accentuate the tamping and the solidness of the center of that puck while not distributing coffee evenly around the outside either. This is how I thought that it might work, and if it did, that's great. That I could see how that could really speed up production and give a really consistent cup. Unfortunately, it hasn't. So I'm going to go through how we're actually using the OCD now, and the time and the care that we put into every single extraction that we do to get a really consistent, pure, great result. So as you may have seen in our other videos, we're using a dosing pot. We're weighing out all of our doses. Depending on what that may be, it's precise each time. The next thing that I'm actually doing is when I flip it upside down, I'm giving it a good shake around, and you can see compared to grinding in the basket how much better the distribution on that is. We haven't found that in itself to be enough to then go straight to the OCD. We're still actually redistributing that coffee around the basket so it's even. What I don't want to see is a big pile of coffee in the center. I'm not super worried about these gaps around the outside. I just don't want to see that huge amount of coffee in the center that's going to be compressed. So now when I put the OCD on, give it a good spin, you can see that that is actually far more uniform than the last puck that I have. There's no gaps around the edges. There's a little bit of I suppose a scrape on the inside of the puck. I'm not super worried about that. And when I go and I feel my puck, it's nice and consistent the whole way through. From there, we're just going to use our puck press or manually tamp and go through. We found really great results to kind of add to that extra little bit of care. It's not going to save you time, it's not going to necessarily make your life easy, but it is definitely going to up the quality of your end product. Thanks for joining us today, guys. If you have had an experience with the OCD, why don't you tell us about it below in the comments, whether that be good, bad or otherwise. We'd love to hear how you're using the OCD and what your thoughts were on that. Thanks for watching, we hope to catch you next time.